Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining our session on this Friday on the eve of Janmashtami. Not exactly an eve, but almost there. I'm so happy that you made this time to come here to spend in Krishna Katha. And we had started a new chapter last time. Do we remember what chapter we started?
Chapter 7.
Hmm?
7.
Chapter 7, correct, for 500 points. Okay, so we will get started, go deeper into chapter 7. We did only one verse last time. That's the speed with which we go, one verse a week. And we will continue into verse number 2, but after we do these brief prayers to the spiritual master. Om Ajnanatimandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Gopremanande Hari Hari
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams. Okay, so let's go deep dive into chapter number 7, verse 2. And what is chapter number 7? What is the name of chapter number 7?
Knowledge of the Absolute.
Knowledge of the Absolute. Very nice. Okay. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And
before we start, can I ask you something like there will be class on Sunday because as I leave early, I won't be able to know.
Yeah, there will very likely not be a class on Sunday.
Hmm.
Do you think we should have the class on Sunday? Then we'll have it. What do you say?
I'm always ready, Mataji, to join.
I'm always ready too. Tell me.
Yes.
Others? Okay, then we'll have the class on Sunday morning. Good. That's the spirit. Thank you for asking that question. I thought the whole week about telling you, but then I had completely slipped today. Okay, so, all right. So here, do you see 7.2?
Yes.
Yes.
Can somebody can confirm? Okay. And can you read it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mataji.
It's big enough? Okay, right. Jñānam teham cha vijñānam idam vakṣyāmi aśeṣataḥ jñātvā neha bhūyo nyaj jñātavyam avaśiṣyate jñānam teham cha vijñānam idam vakṣyāmi aśeṣataḥ jñātvā neha bhūyo nyaj jñātavyam avaśiṣyate. Look at Sanskrit here. All these words, bhūyo nyaj, jñātavyam, avaśiṣyate is all here in one word.
Yeah, in one word. Yeah.
Jñānam teham cha vijñānam idam vakṣyāmi aśeṣataḥ jñātvā neha bhūyo nyaj jñātavyam avaśiṣyate. So Kṛṣṇa is going to tell Arjuna a little bit more on the main topic, which is knowledge of the absolute, right? And in the previous verse, we're going to quickly go to the previous verse, which we did last week. Kṛṣṇa is talking about when something was very important about last week's verse, right? So what was he saying? He was saying, Maya sakta mana partha yogam yunjam vadashrayah asamshayam samagram mam yatha jñāsyasi tachrunu. So what was the most important thing that we discussed over and over last time? Tachrunu, exactly, that you should focus on hearing when Kṛṣṇa is speaking. Okay, so then also I had talked about that when we ended chapter number 6 of Bhagavad Gita, there he was saying, Shraddhavan yoginam api sarvesam, right? Madgatentartar atmanaha Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. So he was saying that those yogis who Shraddhavan, with Shraddha and with faith, they do my worship, right? And those are very dear to me, right? And now here what he's saying, Maya sakta mana partha. So he was saying that asakta mana, that your mind should be attached to me. So from 6.47, which is the last verse in chapter 6, to 7.1, he has jumped from Shraddha to Asakti, which is a big jump. And we also went through the 9 stages of devotional service, right? Adav Shraddha tatha sadhu sangha tatha bhajana kriya, like that, right? So this is a big jump, and it just doesn't happen that way, right? And that's why Bhagavad Gita doesn't end at chapter 7 after having made this leap of faith here. So now what he's going to tell us in this current chapter, current verse that we are looking at. So here, which is 7.2, he's continuing on. So he was saying, okay, I'm going to tell you something, please listen. Okay, so he has set the stage for Arjuna. And now in 7.2, he is saying, now I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Okay, so let's go back and look at the synonyms here. Jñānam, phenomenal knowledge. And te is unto you, right? And then aham is I, sa is with, vijñānam, numinous knowledge, idam, this, vakṣyāmi, shall explain, aśeṣataḥ, in full, yat, which, jñātvā, knowing, na, not, iha, in this world, bhūyaḥ, further, anyat, anything more, jñātavyam, knowledge, knowable, avaśiṣyate, remains. Okay, so what is aśeṣataḥ?
In full.
In full, right? Aśeṣataḥ, in full. It's a very important thing that this word aśeṣataḥ, full. Now, those of you who grew up in a Hindi background and perhaps had a chance to listen to mathematics being taught in the Hindi language, right? So they will say, दो में से पांच में से तीन घटाया क्या शेष बचता है, right? What remains? So शेष means remains, remnant. After you take something and you subtract, then what remains? Okay, so when you add the letter A to anything, it becomes the
Opposite.
opposite, right? So now sheshata, we said shesh means remaining. When you say aśeṣataḥ, it means nothing is remaining, right? Nothing remains, complete. Like there was COVID, and how many people died? Oh, everybody died. Nothing was remaining. Aśeṣataḥ. Koi nahi bacha, koi shesh nahi bacha. Like that, right? So aśeṣataḥ. So he's saying that, aśeṣataḥ, in full. So he's saying, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge. He's going to give him all the knowledge. What knowledge? Phenomenal and numinous. Okay, phenomenal and numinous. What's the meaning of phenomenal and numinous? What is phenomenal?
Out of this world.
Phenomenal, out of this world? No, phenomenal
Like it's so good. It's so good.
Uh-huh. right? Actually, phenomenal is this world. Material world is phenomenal. Of course, we also use this one when something is spectacular. We say it's phenomenal,
spectacular.
right? For example,
Yeah.
when there is an earthquake, it's a spectacular thing. When there is a beautiful sunset, it's a spectacular thing, right? Cyclones are spectacular, right? So they are, right? Now, another meaning of phenomenal word is that you know these things through the senses rather than knowing them through thought or intuition, right? Concerned with the phenomena rather than the hypothesis. Phenomena means something is happening here in this world, right? So he's saying phenomenal. And what was the other word? Numinous, right? Numinous. So numinous is supernatural, mysterious, filled with a sense of presence of divinity. Numinous is also holy, appealing to the higher emotions or to the aesthetic sense, right? And if you go back to the meaning of phenomenal, where they were saying known through the senses rather through thought or intuition. So phenomenal means if there's something that you are capturing through your senses, then numinous is something that you can deliberate upon through thought, through intuition, like that, through reasoning, you try to get that information, right? So Prabhupada is using these meaning of jñānam and vijñānam, right? So I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Why should nothing further remain for you to know? Because he's saying, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge. Right? So now let's go and look at the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. So sometimes they say Jagat, Jeev, and Jagadish. Jagat is phenomenal world. Spirit behind it is Jiva, and the source of both of them is Jagadish, Jagat ka Ish, Jagat ka controller, which is
Kṛṣṇa.
Kṛṣṇa, right? So complete knowledge includes you get to know both of them. This is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. Where does he say he's his confidential devotee and friend? And that where does he talk about this kind of relationship with Arjuna? Does he say that?
Yeah,
Yes.
it starts by saying, because you are my friend, I am imparting this knowledge to you, but I don't know in which.
Where does it say? Okay, let's see. Does he say that in 7.1? Maya Sakta Manapartha Yoga Yunga Asamsham Sama. He doesn't talk about that at all, right? So Prabhupada is explaining that because he sometimes explains these things further. And let's see whether he says that in chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, which we are doing for Chad.
Yeah.
So what does he say here? Somebody read.
Because you are my dear friend.
Dear friend.
Yeah.
For your
The
Because you are my
supreme personality of Godhead said, listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained.
right? So in previous to 10. So in 10, he's saying that, right? He's saying, because you are my friend. And every now and then you will see that Krishna is giving explanations on why he's telling something to Arjuna, right? And what does he say in chapter 9.1 about why is he telling? Chapter 9.1 is called what?
Because Arjuna is non-envious.
Very correct, right? So he says, Anasuyave. Anasuyave means Sri Bhagavanu Vacha. Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakṣyāmi anasuyave. Jnānam vijñānam. Wow. Jnānam vijñānam is also here. Jnānam vijñāna sahitam Yajñātvā mokṣyase shubhat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, what did he say? Sukomal Radhe Mataji?
The Supreme
dear
Personality
Arjuna,
of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material
Right.
existence.
So here is another condition that he's saying that because you are never envious of me. So why does he say because you're not envious of me? Why is that a prerequisite to know to know about God? Because why do you have to be non-envious?
I have a question regarding that, Mataji. First of all, why should or how could anyone be envious of Krishna? Because no one can take his place. They should accept that and then not be envious, right?
Envy is actually a secret way of appreciation. It's just a perverted way of appreciating. See, somebody has got something. We wanted it. We don't have it. So
But
this
this is something no one can have.
that's a devotee speak.
No.
We all are here. We all are here because we were envious of Krishna. And the reason is that if we were not envious of Krishna, we would have just served him, understanding that. But we have got two things. One is that we are part and parcel of Krishna. So he's a controller, we also want to control. Second is that he has given us free will, whether we want to serve him and be happy or we want to serve ourselves and think that we can be happy. So we chose the other path. That's why we are here, right? So now we have gone through millions of births and we are so fortunate to be in touch with devotees, in touch with scriptures, that now we have started to think, how can anybody be envious of Krishna? Only a
Yeah.
non-envious person can say that, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
Mataji.
it's very hard to believe anybody.
But Mataji, Hiranyakashipu was also very envious of Krishna. That is why he wanted his son to pray to him rather than Lord Shri Krishna.
Correct, yeah. So and we are reading prayers of Queen Kunti these days, right? And in prayers of Queen Kunti also, she says that you're not partial to anybody, or you are not and you're not against anybody, but people just think like that. People will just think, Krishna, why is Krishna doing this to me? Why? He's the controller. He gets away with everything. He's able to torture me. I wish I
But
could.
that's because I deserve it.
And that's what you think, because your Gyan checks you have opened. But for many of us, they are still closed to understand that whatever is happening to me in my life is according to my own doing. Krishna has got nothing to do with it. Nate karmani nibandhanti dhananjaya. I'm not bound by anything. I'm aloof from them. That's what Krishna says. But we don't understand that, right? We want whatever Krishna has got. And we don't like it that he has got that. Oh, God, this is not fair, God. You do this to that, and you don't do this to me, and you do this, you did that to me, and I didn't want it, and so on and so forth. It goes on, right? So he's saying to Arjuna that you are not envious of me at all. And because as long as you are envious of Krishna, you will not believe. You will not agree to believe that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? That is why you have got Mayavadis, right? So you were asking Sukomna Radhimati, how can anybody be like that? Oh, they are like that. You see, more than 90% of the world thinks they are God. So bhaktas are rare. This is Kali Yuga. So this is going to happen, right? So here he's asking that because you are non-envious of me, okay? Now I wanted to again go back to our verse, and which I closed majestically here, 7.2. Open that. And in 7.2, he's using the word jñānam teham sa-vijñānam. right? So jnanam is translated as what?
Phenomenal knowledge.
And vijñānam is translated as what?
Numinous knowledge.
Numinous knowledge, right? Okay. So, if we go back to our verse from 9.1, what is jñānam here?
Knowledge.
And
Realized knowledge.
is realized knowledge, right? So there is a difference between knowledge and realized knowledge, okay? And then phenomenal and numinous, right? So these words are used in multiple places in Bhagavad Gita. Actually, they were used in our previous verse as well, in chapter number 6. And let me bring up that verse. It was in the beginning of the chapter. And you will love that verse. I found it. Okay, so let's look at this verse where it talks about Gyan and Vigyan. What does it say? Jnana Vijñāna Triptatma Kutasto Vijitendriyaha Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Samaloshrasma Kanchanaha. Okay, so anybody remember vaguely what does it mean just by looking at the word Kanchana here?
Yeah, the gold and stone.
Gold.
Right, gold, pebbles, and stones, right? So what
Yeah.
it is saying? A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it is pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same, right? So here, Prabhupada is translating that to mean realized knowledge. Gyan is realized knowledge, knowledge, and vigyan is when you realize that knowledge, okay? People can keep on talking about bookish knowledge, bookish knowledge, bookish knowledge. We can also look at certain things and not really experience it. For example, the famous story of Newton, right? What's so famous about Newton? What's the famous story?
Laws of gravity, that the
Law
apple
of gravity.
and he realized.
What did he realize? What was that story? Tell us, Kiran Mataji.
He saw an apple falling from the tree and he thought, what is going on? And he invented this law of gravity.
He discovered, right? Yeah. So to a lot of us, it just happens. You just have gyan, but then for Newton, it was a realization. Okay, even for us, we can preach, we can say, we can hear that chanting is good, right? So you can just go and tell that to people that chanting is good, but not yourself feeling it or yourself realizing it. It's only when you come to a stage where you realize that when this happens to you, that somebody was very upset with you and you didn't say anything but sat down and chanted, and lo and behold, you realize that your anger has just evaporated. And then you realize that chanting is good. Okay, so realization is going through that experience and understanding that, right? So here, in the verse that we have talked about just now, where you said that jnana vidyata triptatma. So once a person has got knowledge and a person has got the realization. So in this case, what is the knowledge and what is the realization that a person will get to consider that gold and stone are just the same? Why would they? What would happen that they would think like that, right? So we can look at it from the perspective of Sankhya Yoga, right? Where what does Sankhya Yoga do? It's an empirical formula, right? It goes and looks at the empirical formula and says, what are things made up of? And then Sankhya Yoga says that everything in this material world, which we read just now, is also called the phenomenal world because it's material, something that you can gather from your senses. Okay, so you gather something from your senses, that's the phenomenal world. And that phenomenal world, Sankhya Yoga is saying, is made up of bhumi, apo, analo, vayu, kham, mano, buddhi, devacha, ahankara, idam, bhinna, prakriti, ashrita. Right? So, from with the help of Sankhya knowledge, with the help of your senses, material senses, we can definitely understand and definitely see that everything that is around us is made up of these elements. If not see, at least we can see the gross items there. Okay? So you can analyze anything that you pick up. Ultimately, it's either made up of earth, or fire, or water, or air, or a combination of all of them. Right? The moment we say earth, that means the whole periodic table. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, sodium, potassium, calcium, right? Chlorine, proline, bromine, whatever we did the rectification in our thing. So all that is there. So you can see, yes, I can understand that this is what it is. So gold is also made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, and then pebbles are also made of earth, water, fire, and ether, right? And then you also look at, but then the thing would be, no, but I think there is a difference between them. Why? Because with gold, I can do this, this, and this, and that, and more. But if you give me stones, I can't even buy my groceries with that. So there is a difference. So then how can I do sama loshtrasma? Sama is that you see it with the equal eyes. So what is the realization that you would have had, right? The realization will dawn one day when you see that a very rich man declared to have cancer and gold cannot cure it. It has to leave the body. And then you look at the dead body being carried away. And then comes the realization that they are one and the same thing. Right? So you can have jnana and you can have vijñānam. Okay? And what is Kṛṣṇa saying? I'm going to tell you both jnana and I'm going to tell you vijñāna also. I'm going to give you that knowledge there, right? The interesting thing is that same concept of Vijñān applies to us in our lives as well, right? In our spiritual life. So we will go a little deeper into the same verse and see in the purports what Srila Prabhupada is telling us, right? So book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless, right? Krishna is this, Krishna is that. Have you seen Krishna? No. So the ultimate goal is that you should realize God. This is stated as follows: Athashi Krishna namadi na bhaved grahyam indriye sevan mukho hi jivhadav swam eva spuratyada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, and quality and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated. So why does he say materially contaminated? What is the contamination that happens in our senses? Why is he saying they are contaminated? Why are
Because
senses?
we are engulfed by Maya.
But what
get-
happens to the senses? Why are they materially contaminated? What's wrong with
We
our
are-
senses? I'm trying
we
to...
get
It's not
So-
clear, Mataji, our mind. So that's why the senses are contaminated.
They're contaminated by? By the
No.
mind?
No. Yes, the mind is not clear. So that's why the senses are contaminated, because we cannot differentiate which is right or wrong.
Yeah, that is true. But then, and because of that, we can't understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, because our senses are materially contaminated. And then when our senses become spiritualized, then we are able to understand Krishna, right? Also remember that our senses are defective, right? We talked about the 4 defects of the senses. So number 1, they're defective. Number 2, they have this material, the senses will always go out of, after material things. But now, if you have to understand Krishna, then you have to go above that level of consciousness and try to reach the transcendental. And so here is saying that only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord, are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. They say, Atha Shri Krishna Naam Adi. So Krishna ka naam, Adi means etc., which means quality, form, pastimes, etc. Na bhavet grahyam indriyes. You cannot understand them through your grahyam indriye, through your contaminated material senses. Sevan mukho vijivada. But the question is, then how will I know? Right? All that I have got are material senses. How will I ever know Krishna? Because you said that's the goal, right? So what you have to do is that you have to start doing service with your mouth. Sevan mukho. So sevan mukho is anmukho. Anmukh means to have a tendency, or you turn your face towards that. So you, by saying that, okay, now I'm going to focus on this. Now you're going to focus on what? You're going to focus on seva, doing seva. You have to do service. Okay. So then only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service, right? And then how do you start? Adao. What is that? What do you do in the beginning? You will start the service in the beginning with your
Swayam.
jihva. 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 What is jihva?
Tongue.
Tongue.
Right?
Tongue.
Yeah. So you will start the service of Krishna with your tongue. Now, what are the characteristics of the tongue? What are the two ways in which you can serve Krishna with your tongue?
Speech and taste.
Taste.
Speech
Yeah,
and
so
taste.
what about taste you can do with Krishna? What are you going to
Eating
taste?
prasadam only.
Prasadam only. That's the important thing, right? So with taste and with your tongue, you
Chanting.
glorify Krishna. Then swam eva. Swam means by itself. Spuratya, manifested. So you cannot see Krishna's name, form, etc., with your material eyes. But then if you do start doing seva for Krishna, starting with your tongue, then automatically it will be revealed, right? Automatically. And this Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna, right? Because Krishna, he is satisfied with the pure devotional service, the devotee. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. Vijñānam. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. That's very, very important when you have, especially as we go about learning in this material world. Okay? When you are just pure academic knowledge, then you can be deluded, very easily swayed. Oh, is this right? Is that not? Because somewhere there is some contradiction that seems like a contradiction to you. And then we are like, oh no, I don't think so. Okay? It is the realized soul who's actually self-controlled because he's surrendered to Krishna. Why? Rishikesha, Rishikesha, Asya Bhakti Ruchyate. Right? So Rishikesh is Krishna is the controller of our senses. So if we think that we will be able to control our senses by ourselves, then that's not the case, right? Because ahankara vimūಢātmā kartaham iti manyate, right? We just think that we'll be able to do it, but actually it's Krishna who does it, right? But when we surrender to Krishna, then what happens? That Rishikesh, Krishna starts to take control of our senses. And then the senses which are like horses will not go here and there everywhere. They will stay focused on Krishna. So Krishna is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship, and sorry, not Krishna, the devotee, he's transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. So you see the nice comparison that Srila Prabhupada is making over here about that. So jñānam and vijñānam, he also talks about that in another verse that was in chapter 3rd of Bhagavad Gita. We look at that verse as well. There are some very, very nice examples that that Krishna is speaking all over Bhagavad Gita. He's speaking, and we look at that.
The
and
number,
then go back.
Mataji? What is the number?
341. So he's saying tasmatvam indriyana do niyamya bharata rishabha papanam prajahihenam jnana-vijñāna-naṣanam. Jnana-vijñāna, the word jnana-vijñāna is coming again over here, right? He's saying, therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin or lust by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization, right? So let's go back a little bit here because we need to get Gyan and we need to get Vijñān, and let's see what else is happening in this chapter 3, closer to this verse that we are looking at, which is 41, right? And if you remember chapter 3, he had said that, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? He said, why do I do things knowing very well, yeah, I should not be doing it? Why am I impelled, means pushed by force, and I'm impelled to do that? And then the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, right? It's lust, because of lust happens, right? And then he gave them examples there, like as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust, okay? And then he's saying that where is the lust? The lust, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him, right? So now in text 41, he's saying, therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin. In the very beginning, you should curb it by regulating the senses. And that's why we have 4 regulatory rules, right? And slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. This lust which is there, that is going to destroy all the knowledge. Kṛṣṇa is trying to give Arjuna some knowledge, but it can get destroyed if there is too much of lust, right? And you will not progress in devotional service. So, and also one of the things that Kṛṣṇa is saying to Arjuna is that in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin. Very beginning, try to nip it in the bud, right? That's why as parents, when we were bringing up our kids, the moment they did something wrong, which we knew will take them on a very different trajectory, we immediately, tightened this, right? The reins on them. Do not let them go there, by, because you have to curb that thing right in the very beginning. Okay. Very interesting thing about, curbing things. And this is something that those who are controllers and those who are managers will do that. Those who are rulers will do that, right? The moment they see there is a small unrest in one part of the kingdom, they will put, immediately they'll put it, stamp it down. Otherwise, it'll spread like wildfire. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in what seems to be a very simple chapter, but is not. Chapter 1, observing the armies in the battlefield. There's just armies in the battlefield. Give me the spiritual. I want to go to chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. No, there are so many lessons for us in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita itself. And in the beginning, we see that when Dhritarashtra is asking Sanjay that what did they do on the army?
Yeah.
He says, Drishtva tu Pandavanikam, Yuram Duryodhanastata, Acharya Upasangamya, Raja Vachanam Abravit. So they say that he saw both the armies, and then the Raja, which is Duryodhan, Raja Duryodhan, said these words. So he went to his military master, and he said these words. And who's the military master? Dronacharya. Right? So, and there he says that, look at this military phalanx that has been set up by your intelligent disciple, right? Drishtadhyumna. Now we might just say, okay, fine, that's something, but there's a lot of meaning behind it. So just as is immediately when Drishtadhyumna sees, Duryodhan sees the military phalanx of the Kauravas, and he's going and reminding his spiritual master, his military master, teacher, that, you know what, this has been set up by this Dushyantana. Now, what's the deal with this Dushyantana? He was on the side of the Pandavas. Somebody has to set up the military phalanx. So big deal that he set it up. What's the story behind it? So the story behind that is that this Dushyantana was born or created out of yajna, out of yajna, to kill Dronacharya. And that is the beauty of the people in those days, is that when this Arjuna came to Dronacharya and told him that, will you teach me? He did not say no. He taught, although he knew that I'm teaching him the military warfare and he's going to kill me using those old same techniques, right? But those were elevated souls living in that era. So he had accepted him as a shishya. So now Duryodhana is very gently, in the beginning of the war, even before the war has started, even before the bugles have blown, he's reminding in subtle ways that, hey, you know what? This has been set up by this system. Now you better be careful, and you really fight very hard in this war, right? Like that. So you have to nip things in the bud. Nip it. Any thought that comes to your mind, nip it in the beginning. And that's why I keep on saying there is thinking, there is feeling, right? And then there is willing, and then there is acting. So nip it at the thought level. And that's why here also he's saying curve the mind, curve the mind, curve the mind, because that's where it starts. That's where the nipping actually happens, right? So have that transcendental knowledge, gain that knowledge, do that. So let's continue on and look at some more verses that we have.
Hare Krishna, Madhave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wasn't, Duryodhana was actually envious of Drishtadyumna. I felt, I got this feeling that he was actually jealous or envious of him. And that is why, you see, he said that you only educated him, and see the result now. And he is standing in front of you and he's ready to kill you. So I was getting that feeling that he is reminding him that his teacher made a mistake.
Yeah. And then he's reminding, but the essential point over here, to connect it with the verse that he's saying, that Kṛṣṇa is saying here, which I'm displaying on the screen for you, that in the very beginning, curb, right? And that's what Duryodhana was doing. In the very beginning, he was curbing. That if his teacher has got anything, but like, okay, fine, this student is there. In any case, I'm going to die in his hands. Let me die in this war. He's saying, no, you better fight. You better fight. You already made a mistake, but that is okay. It's in the past. You have to fight because I pay you, right? You are in my payroll. You have to fight. So he says, curb it in the very beginning. Right? Same thing we see in our during our chanting. If there's an urge to talk or go over and do something, curb it there only. Don't go over there. Sit down there and do it like that. So then let's go back to our verse for today, which is 7.2, and just read the nice purport that Srila Prabhupada is giving, right? So complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the spirit behind it and the source of both. This is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Kṛṣṇa's confidential devotee and friend. In the beginning of the 4th chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved only by the devotee of the Lord in disciplic succession directly from the Lord. Right? So he says that in the beginning, right? Of chapter number 4. When he says this knowledge was destroyed, and also he's saying that first I gave this to Ikshvaku, Manu, and he told it to his son, like that, right? So he was talking about this. And then he also said, but over time it was Nasham, it was destroyed.
Lost, yeah.
And so here Prabhupada is saying that one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and the only object for meditation. Remember, we are coming from chapter 6, which is all about meditation. But now he's telling, okay, fine, you want to meditate, you want to focus your mind, then you should know which is the only object for meditation. Right? Kṛṣṇa is the only object of meditation for any kind of yoga practice that you're doing. He should be the focus. Don't go by the words of the bogus yoga instructors and trainers who say you can focus on anything in this world. That's fine. It's not fine. It is shrama eva hi kevalam. Right? You'll gain nothing out of it by stopping to think. because you're supposed to think of Krishna. So when the cause of all causes becomes known, sarva karana karanam, right? Then everything knowable becomes known, and everything and nothing remains unknown. The Vedas, Muṇḍaka Upaniṣad say, Kasmin u bhagavo vijñāte sarvam idam vijñātam bhavanti. They say whoever knows Krishna vijñānate, right? Vijñān, realizes, then he has realized everything. Okay. Now, let's go back to this verse again, to the top of this verse, and look scrutinizingly at some more items there in this verse. So let's see here. So Krishna is saying, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous, right? So here in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is not talking necessarily about knowledge and realized knowledge, right? Because we looked at the meaning of phenomenal and numinous, right? Phenomenal, we said, was something that can be gained by our senses. And numinous, we said was divine and those kind of things, right? So you will see, and we saw, and then Krishna is using these words here and there and everywhere in the Bhagavad Gita. They have slight different meanings here and there, like other verses that I showed you. Gyan and Vigyan meant knowledge and realized knowledge. And here he's saying phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge, right? And so essentially, principally, they still mean the same thing, right? In principle, they still mean the same thing. When we talk about phenomenal knowledge, right? When we're talking about phenomenal knowledge, it's knowledge of this material world, right? And you have got knowledge acquiring senses, right? Which are your knowledge acquiring senses?
Eyes, ears, nose, skin.
Right? So you get different kind. You acquire the knowledge about this phenomena, which is your prakriti. You get the knowledge about them, right? So we are saying that you will, from your knowledge acquiring senses, you can get knowledge about the world which is around you, and that is phenomenal knowledge, right? And that is, and of course, in the word in which we use phenomena, how Sukomal Radhe Mataji was pointing earlier, right? Phenomena means something fantastic, majestic, like that. Yes, and this prakriti is majestic, right? You go and stand next to a mountain, you realize, right, how majestic this prakriti is, right? So, so here he's talking about phenomenal knowledge, that you get knowledge about this material world around us. Okay. So now, when we come to Vigyan, which he translates in this chapter as numinous knowledge, right? So numinous is, we saw it is divine. Numinous is something. Another way of defining and distinguishing between phenomenal and numinous is that phenomenal is knowledge is empirical knowledge. Empirical. Okay, this is water made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Like that. Water tastes very nicely. Okay, but when you taste it, then you know what is taste of water. You can't describe it, right? But you have got that knowledge. You've experienced it, right? So that is Gyan and Vigyan. Okay.
Perceptible by the senses.
Yeah. Yes, perceptible by the senses. Exactly. Okay. So, but then we also say that, and then behind everything, we have to understand when we gain knowledge or we understand something, that there is one level of understanding that you get, right? And there could be a second and a higher level of understanding that you can get for the same thing, right? And it happens to us in our world also, in our lives also, especially with our spouses, right? They do something, we get upset. And when they explain why they did it, it was like, oh my goodness, I did not understand it correctly in the first place, right? So this means that sometimes, there are things that can be understood in many different ways and many different levels, right? For example, when we are in the material world and we are taught to be go-getters and self-made people and things like that, that is all in our heads, right? And we think when something very nice happens to us, we say, see, I did this. I'm so great, I have done this. Right? So Komal Radhe Manchidi, do they say
Yeah,
that? Right? People say that.
I mean, devotees.
Right? And then you read the Srimad Bhagavad.
The devotees also
Prakirtiya
say this.
kriyamanani vadaye karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Right? So as long as we are in the material world, our gyan, our phenomenal knowledge is that, yes, if I do this, I will get this. If I study this, I can become this. If I go take an MBA, I can become a vice president, like that, right? If I socialize and I have a good network, I will become a CEO, like that, right? I, and I, right? But Vigyan is when you realize that it's not me. It's something else, something supernatural, something which cannot have been done by you. And I remember a few weeks ago, I gave you this example that it happens to me. I have to tell you this. This is very interesting. So I have meetings at 8 o'clock in the morning at work. And these are intense meetings. And these days, there were some issues going on in production, which means a big thing, because issues in production mean loss of Lakshmi to the company. So they don't like it, right? Imagine if the Target website goes down for 5 minutes, what happens? People can't place orders, right? They will go to some other place and place the order there, right? Companies don't like it. So production issue is a big thing. So normally these 8 o'clock meetings do not happen on a Friday. Like today morning, they were not supposed to happen. And I was having these series of issues were going on. So I said, okay, let me have the meeting on Friday, because teams in India are going to work. Then they'll go off on vacation on the weekend. And then I need to know what's happening so that people here in the US can then continue with the work. So that was my thing. So I was doing a lot of things on my calendar and I set up the call. Now, today I was extremely busy and I wanted to have a little time to do my personal work, which is not office work. And I really wanted a little breather so that I could make a few phone calls. I wanted to do that. But production issues and, all that in these meetings was very difficult. So anyway, as I was praying to the Lord in the morning, I said, Lord, Kṛṣṇa, I need something. I need something to help me get a little bit of a time to make these very 10 or 12 important phone calls that I want to make. So I just prayed to him and then I came. I finished my prayers and came to my computer, sat down to join the call. It was almost 5 minutes to 8. And I go and I don't see the call on the calendar. I said, what happened? This meeting, where did this go? It was supposed to be a very important meeting. And then lo and behold, I had made a mistake. I had set it up for the week after. Next Friday. So I got my time. So we might think that when we ask Kṛṣṇa that he does it, but Kṛṣṇa does it for you even before that. So I made that mistake yesterday, at which time I didn't know that I had to make 12 phone calls today. But, and they were all devotional related phone calls. So Kṛṣṇa does that. And so why did I forget? Why did I make that mistake? Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smrite jñānam apohanam cha, right? So I can talk about glories of God. I can understand ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti mantyate prakriti kriyamani rantra mururani mayaya. I can understand all these things. I can teach you all these things. But when you realize it, that how Kṛṣṇa can make you are really a yantra in Kṛṣṇa's hand.
I also have something to share. Can I share where we felt?
Please. I love these stories.
So, Nisha had submitted her tax return in February. She was supposed to get some refund and she didn't get it. So, it's okay. We said we'll wait. Then in July, she got a letter from the IRS saying that she owes $9,800 to the IRS. Because it's like it wasn't. So then I went to the accountant and he wrote a fax and he said, we sent a copy of her W-2 and everything to say that it has been withheld, but maybe her employer has not paid it. So please contact the employer. And we thought it was done. A month later, end of July, we get another letter, added interest. So now it's like 11,000 that she owes. And we said, this is not possible. We had everything. So then we said one Monday she was starting late. So we said, let's call the IRS. I don't know, we've never done it. So they said, we'll call you back between 2 and 3:30. We said, okay. They did call back. And then she explained everything, that my taxes were withheld. I don't owe anything. In fact, I need to get a refund. So the first time we felt that Kṛṣṇa worked out is because IRS makes you hold for hours and hours. So that was the day that she wasn't working and she did the call, and it worked out. We were so grateful. Then they said they'll call us in 2 weeks and figure this out. We have all the info and it looks like, yeah, you have withheld, you don't owe us any. Today, she was starting surgery at 1:30. At 12 o'clock, IRS calls and says that, yeah, it looks like you're all fine. Everything is fine at your end. You will receive your refund that was originally your refund. No day has she ever started at 1:30. She always goes at 8 and comes at 7 or something like that. And she could not have answered her phone if she was in surgery. So this was another day we both looked at each other and we said it's totally Kṛṣṇa's arrangement that both the days the call came when she was home. Because IRS doesn't care if you don't pick up their phone, they will not call you back. So we were like, this happened today. And I was like, so grateful.
Yeah, it is reliable. So that's what I'm saying, that when you realize that, then you will, stop being envious. Not that you were, but yeah, that's how it is. Yeah. So
She is also a doctor, Madhuri?
She's a physician assistant, yeah.
Okay.
but that's beside the point.
Yeah,
The
that's
point
the
here
point,
is that,
yes.
yeah. So so I was talking about knowledge and then the acquired knowledge, right? So so gyan, and we are talking about gyan. So phenomenal knowledge, so that you gain from your, so there was no way for me to know that Kṛṣṇa is doing something to me and making me make that mistake of scheduling the call on a different day, right? Like that. So you cannot do that. So then there has to be so sometimes you understand things, bringing in divinity, which was the numinous part of it, right? Sometimes, phenomenal is very crude. Show me. The other day you were saying, right, that how to make people understand faith, right? Rashana Mataji and I were saying, we were talking about belief and disbelief, and everybody is a believer of something, right? And so they were like, show me. So there is God, show me God. You won't be able to show them God. Why? Because Athashi Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriye sevan mukho hi jivyada. You cannot see them with their material senses. So even if you keep on showing me, you don't have the eyes to see him, right? So, but then there can be you can understand things. You can get knowledge, phenomenal knowledge, by looking at things which are there around you, right? There's mountains, you can study them to all length, their whole life you can go and study them. But if you start thinking a little deeper, and that's what Sankhya does. What Sankhya does is that it looks at everything around and then says, there must be somebody behind this who built all this. So that is irrational.
Mataji, now your example and Sukomal Mataji's example, which she just narrated the whole thing, this itself, you see, gives us the guarantee that Kṛṣṇa is there. The only thing is, we don't have the qualification to see him. Otherwise, you see, because I read in Srila Prabhupada's one of the purports also, that one of the devotees asked him have you seen God? And he said, how does it matter whether I have seen it or not? The main thing is Krishna is there because my Shastras are telling me. So, Mataji, that the faith which we discussed in the beginning is the most important thing.
Right, right. And then, but what I'm just saying is that the beginning, right? Faith comes from faith. Or by hanging around with people who have faith, right? But what I'm just saying is that the thinkers can at least begin to think about the fact that there is such a beautiful thing, there must be a creator, right? And then you also apply your intelligence. For example, you will say that, oh, so there's a creator. I can tell you how all this was created. There was a big bang. Then you will say, all right, let me see all the other big bangs that happen around in my life, right? When the pressure cooker bursts, that's a big bang. And then automatically beautiful chapatis get made and idli vada, everything gets made. No, right? So you can also, use your rationale to understand that a big bang will not result in such a complex creation. There has to be a complex intelligence behind it. You have to understand that. Sutapa has raised her hand.
Yes, Mataji, like Varshana Mataji just now told that the faith, we don't have the capability of belief in Krishna. So Mataji, last week I told that sometimes the life is so miserable that we want to get out from this world. So, and you told that you want to get out from this world because you love Krishna, or just life is miserable. Yes, Mataji, I was thinking the whole week about this, and honestly speaking, yes, I am so scared of this material world. So that's why I want to get out. Yes, the love for Krishna is there, but the fear of living here and like in this material world. And so that is the first thing. That's why I want to get out from this life. So that means I don't believe in Krishna, or why it is like that, Mataji?
Komal Shraddha. Komal Shraddha. Faith
Yeah.
is there, not enough, right? Not
So
enough.
that's what I wanted to say, Mataji, that with all of us, the faith is very komal in the beginning. But if you stick to it, to stick to Krishna consciousness, it will happen so that everything you think, like even today, this
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
both the calls that happened, it could not have happened. It would have not happened. So the minute you related that it was his mercy that she was there when so the Shraddha strengthens over time, I think.
Not by itself. It has to be given boosters and injections and vitamins, right? So
Which
that's
are
where the
what?
devotional
Which are the
practice.
boosters and vitamins?
Devotional practice. Shravanam,
Yeah,
Kirtanam,
yeah.
right?
So I said, like, by
Yeah.
staying in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So you have to do that. You have to do that, right?
And
And so
how
the
to
more
come
your
out
faith,
that the fear, Mataji,
say that again.
that how to come out from that fear, that's material, to living in the material world. I am always scared of everything, the people, the surroundings, and everything. So how to come out from that?
Yes. So to come out of that, number one, you continue to read inspirational stories from the scripture. You are reading the Bhagavatam, how many times Krishna has come and saved people doing silly things like walking into the mouth of a python. You are not even doing that, right? And Krishna comes and saves. And then stay around with people who have got that kind of a faith. Third thing, and always works, is you ask Krishna. You can pray to Krishna. And I don't think that you don't love him. You do, very fiercely. You do. All of you. That's why you're here, right? Otherwise, you will be doing some things, right? To fortify your finances or fortify your health or anything like that. You're sitting here, right? So don't think that you don't have faith in Krishna. You just need to strengthen it. And don't hang around people who bring in fear. You open the newspaper, open the television.
Yes, Mataji.
All that is there is, oh, Hurricane Katrina is going to come. It is proceeding at the speed of, oh, what do you think? All the time it's like that. or early morning, the whole of America gets messed up in the morning because they sit with a cup of coffee in the front of a television and watch the CNN news. So, what is the news telling you? Right? Disasters, hurricanes, storms, floods, earthquakes, political warfare. That's all they're saying. Right? So you have to create an atmosphere around you. And then again, in this yoga, only chanting helps. Even if your mind is not on the chanting, you still continue to chant because a medicine will have its effect, even if you don't know its constitution. Like that. It's difficult, but you do it.
Yesterday, I was listening to a kirtan and I forwarded it to Shukumar Radhe Mataji. There, the singer was telling that when you lie down and chant, Kṛṣṇa sits beside you. When you sit and chant, Kṛṣṇa stands beside you. When you stand and chant, Kṛṣṇa dances beside you. And when you dance and chant, Kṛṣṇa embraces you.
Oh, amazing. But I thought we are
much,
not supposed to lie down and chant, right?
Oh, if somebody is sick,
Huh?
somebody's sick,
Oh.
broken his bones,
Mm.
right? A lady delivering a child, right? They're all lying down. Well, these days. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
So then, there you go. You want to dance?
Yes, Mataji, I was thinking that yesterday night, and I could not sleep just of thinking only this part.
Right.
Yeah, that is Janvi and that other person's bhajan, Ram bhajan.
So one more thing I wanted to tell you from this verse 7.2, and which will also be the conclusion, is so we talked about phenomenal and numinous knowledge. Now I shall declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to be known. The phenomenal and the numinous. And how did Kṛṣṇa give knowledge to Bhagavad Gita, to Arjuna? Through Bhagavad Gita. Which means that if you come to the end of Bhagavad Gita, there'll be nothing further to be known. You have known everything. And Kṛṣṇa is saying that, right?
Beautiful.
But then elsewhere you say, our Acharya is telling us that Bhagavad Gita is high school. And Bhagavatam is graduate.
It's college.
And then Chaitanya Charitamrita is PhD, right? Like that. So there seems to be an apparent contradiction there, right? But Kṛṣṇa is saying here that if you really understand everything, then there's nothing further for you to know, right? So we don't have to take it literally in that sense that there is nothing for us to know after we know the Bhagavad Gita. We have to understand that you have, by going through the Bhagavad Gita, you understand the basics, right? You understand the basic, you understand the principles, right? And then those principles will be applied over and over. You can dig deeper into those principles and so on and so forth. That's fine, right? That is fine. You can go endless. For example, I'll tell you, I'll ask you this question because you are doing Chad. Okay? You're doing Chad. So in Chad, which chapter are we doing?
7.2.
10.
Chapter 10. Okay. And what is chapter
1
10?
to 21.
Okay. And what is chapter 10 all about?
Kṛṣṇa.
Devotional service, Mataji.
Oh, this one. Okay. Bhagavad Gita.
Chapter 10. Move your fingers. Give me chapter 10.
The opulence of the absolute.
Opulence of the absolute.
Opulence of the absolute, right? Yeah, okay.
Absolute.
Now, so I'll tell you the difference between understanding the principle and understanding the details. Okay? So is it this chapter in which he says, among the elephants, I am Airavat, among the Pandavas, I am Arjuna, right?
Yeah.
Among the great thinkers, I am Ujna. Is this the chapter in which he says that?
Mataji, maybe after
After 21?
20.
But you have read Bhagavad Gita so many times.
Yes, I have read.
Okay.
But memory is bad.
Right. So now I will tell you the principle and the difference between principle and the detail, right? So when he's saying that, among methods of cheating, I'm gambling, right? Among, nakshatranam, I'm Shashi, that you have read, right? Last 21, right? And then among great thinkers, I'm Ushna, Shukracharya. Among the, military commandants, I'm Kartikeya. Among the Pandavas, I am Arjuna, right? So among the mountains, I'm Himalayas, right? So bodies of water, I'm the ocean. Among the aquatics, I'm the shark, right?
Sure.
So he's giving you examples. But what is that one underlying principle that he's explaining in chapter 10 is that Kṛṣṇa is the best of the best. Right? So if you understand that Kṛṣṇa is the best of the best, there's nothing left for you to know. All these are just examples. Like among the Pandavas, yeah, Arjuna was the best. Among the nakshatra, yeah, the moon is the best. Right? Among all the people who live in the ocean, yeah, shark is the best, most ferocious. Like that, right?
The demigods, Indra is the best.
Right. So then when he's saying that after understanding this, there'll be nothing known for you, what he's saying is that you will understand when I tell you jñānam and vijñānam, right? The phenomenal and the numinous, right? Then numinous could be through rational, you understand, and even a higher level of the numinous is divine. And how will you get that divine? So that's why he says when Arjuna tells him that Kṛṣṇa, tell me about your opulences, right? This chapter is about opulences. And what does he say? I'm going to tell you only a little bit. Some of them I'm going to tell you. So I've got so many opulences, right? What use is there for you to know about all this? With just a single point of mind, I do all this. Right? He's telling all that. So in the essence of all that is that Kṛṣṇa is great. And if you understand that and you apply Vijñān, you start applying that in your life also, that Kṛṣṇa is great, then you will understand. Then whatever happens to you, you say, Kṛṣṇa is great. He's doing this to me. There must be something great about it. And then when that thing comes to your mind, then the fear goes away.
Right.
Bhayam ditva bhiniveshyat syat. Right? It says that why does fear come into our mind? It comes when we think that we are separate from Kṛṣṇa. And then it says that how can I avoid that separation? It says that you have to go and take the shelter of a guru. Right? Some Bhagavatam. So the more you connect yourself to Kṛṣṇa, the more the fear is going to go away. And surround yourself with positive people. Never stay alone with your mind. Do seva. Engross yourself in seva. Right? And you will start seeing the benefits. Start counting the positives in your life rather than the negatives, because negatives are going to give you more negative feeling. That, oh, this is going to happen, and that is going to happen, and that is going to happen. And the fear will come that, oh, this material world is so bad. Right?
I don't know, Mataji, whether I should share this or not, but
if you think you should not share this, then please don't share it, because I'm not going to go back and edit the Facebook video. Yes. You are on Facebook, I'm telling you this.
Mataji, I'm leaving. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you so much. And be you fearless. May you be fearless.
Yeah. Thank you
for that.
Since the time
Mataji, I also have to leave today.
US, Hare Krishna. Since the time I have come to US, Mataji, I have become totally fearless, Mataji.
Very nice.
I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of anything. Whatever has to happen will happen. Yes. If anybody says also something, I says it is their own thinking. My thinking is different. That's the only different thing. Otherwise, no one is wrong or right. Everyone is right in their own way.
Yes.
So let's take it in that sense.
Yes, and that's why I said that there are different ways in understanding something. We don't understand fully.
Right. And this is the result of Bhagavad Gita, Mataji, nothing else.
Right. And then Kṛṣṇa has simplified this and then saying that, in trying aśeṣataḥ, he said nothing will be remained and fully, everything. I'm going to give you everything in full. right? And then not understanding of full is that, oh, I should know this and this and this and this and this. He said, no, you just know the principle. Kṛṣṇa is great. So on that happy note, yeah, we'll call it a day on this call. What do you say?
Are we going to?
Never feel like going, Mataji, from this class.
Don't feel like going from this
I
class.
know. I wish it was like
Hey,
2-3
Sunita.
hours.
Yeah,
And we
that's
take a
what I'm
dinner break
thinking.
and then we come back and then all those things.
I wish it was 1 hour earlier. It gets too late for
Oh yeah, for you
us.
guys, it's late.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That late concept is also in the mind, right? If you put
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
Mataji,
we
actually,
stay
the
awake till
only
1
thing is
o'clock and
the
watch
family.
that useless Hollywood movie, and then we have a hangover the next day.
Mm.
We have done that. Just your mind telling you all kinds of nonsense.
Yeah.
We have
Mataji,
done
I
that. We have
haven't
stayed
seen
awake. We have made calls to India whole night.
I haven't seen TV since
And now
last, I don't
Krishna
know
Katha
how
is
many
going on till
years.
10 o'clock. Everybody's complaining.
Mm.
That's mine. That's your mind.
Yeah,
I don't have time. I don't have the intelligence. I don't have
correct.
the energy. What will others say? These are mind things. Mind just puts these things in your head. Yeah.
But this is true. I don't have the intelligence.
It's a good feeling. Because Trinadapi Sunichena, when you will be humble,
What's
the most important line there in that verse?
Amanina
Mandena for you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sadahari.
Kirtaniya Sadahari. That's the most important thing. And then he's saying that for you to be able to do Kirtaniya Sadahari, you should be Trinadapi Sunichena Taroreva Sahasrana. Amanina Mandena. Oh God, Amanina Mandena is so difficult. Right? Imagine every daughter-in-law thinks about Amanina Mandena.
But Kitaliya Sadahari, that will take care.
That I don't know whether daughter-in-law will believe in it or not.
There you go. Right, so we've done chapter, this. So it's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing. And actually, if you want, there's one more aspect I want you to discuss, but I didn't touch it, but we can touch it if you want to talk for 5 more minutes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is in our lineage, he has written commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And so it's a very interesting thing that we saw that how Gyan and Vigyan were translated to be knowledge and realized knowledge. And in this chapter, they were translated as phenomenon and numinous, right, by Srila Prabhupada. So our acharyas, when they give the tippani and the commentaries on this, they will bring in such beautiful flavors, right? And a very nice and a very beautiful flavor that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur brings into this while explaining this particular verse. And he says that Jnānam means Aishwarya Gyan. Aishwarya means that you know about the greatness of Kṛṣṇa. Gyan is you just know about the greatness of Kṛṣṇa. Right? Gyan. And he translates Vigyan as Madhurya of Kṛṣṇa. Right? Now, I want to mention that Madhurya comes from Madhur, which is sweet. Right? Sweetness. Adharam, madharam.
Ataram Madhuram.
Right? That famous song is there. Nayanam madhuram, chalitam madhuram, right? Trishti madhuram, shrishti madhuram, madhuradhipate, akilam madhuram, right?
Akhilam
Madhur
Madhuram.
means sweetness, right? So that sweetness is there. So madhur means, madhurya means sweetness. Now this sweetness is different from madhurya rasa, right? You know the rasa? Dasya ras, sakhya ras, right? So madhurya rasa is conjugal relationship. So I'm not talking about this. He's saying Gyan, right? Gyan, he was translating as what?
Greatness of
Aishwarya.
Kṛṣṇa. That is
Aishwarya,
Gyan.
Aishwarya, right, is Gyan, right? Knowing
the
his
greatness.
greatness is Gyan, and Vigyan is knowing his sweetness. And then if Kṛṣṇa is saying, he always goes very deep into something that you will not even see on the surface of it. So he says that jñānam vijñāna sahitam, right? So I'm going to teach you both, right? Jnān and Vigyan. So he translates that into you're going to know about his Aishwarya, and you're also going to know about his Madhurya.
Madhurya.
Right? His beautiful, his Madhurya, right? Madhurya is his sweetness, right? Not Madhurya,
Sweetness.
Madhurya, right? So then Aishwarya Gyan, and then if you remember, Kṛṣṇa has said, I will explain this to you, all this, and there'll be nothing for you remaining, which means that in the Bhagavad Gita, he would have talked about this. His Aishwarya Gyan and his Madhurya Gyan also. His sweetness is also known, and then his Aishwarya opulence is also known. And then we see, right? In chapter number 7, it's what is it called?
Jnāna-vijñānam.
Knowledge of the absolute.
Knowledge of the absolute, right? And then later on, we also see opulences of the absolute, right? Chapter 10, right? So we'll in this chapter 7, we will get to know about his Aishwarya, right? He's like, among the Pandavas, I'm this, among this Aishwarya. Oh, you're in awe. Oh, Kṛṣṇa is so great. Kṛṣṇa is so great. Kṛṣṇa is so great, right? Chapter 8, also you will know about the Aishwarya, Gyan of coming from Kṛṣṇa, right? Then where is the Madhur? Where is the sweetness that is coming, right? Which is Vigyan. That comes from chapter 9. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. He's so sweet. He's saying, just give me this. Right? Just give me this. Like that. Okay?
That's so
Avajananti mamula, manashim tamu aśeṣataḥ, param bhāvam jananto, mama bhuta maheshwaram. He's just very sweetly saying, they're foolish. They don't know I'm this. You know? The sweetness comes out in chapter 9. And then when you go to chapter 10 and 12, right? All the way 10, 11, 12. 11 is the universal form. 12 is as a devotee saying, oh, same bhakta, same priya, same bhakta, same priya. 13 onwards till 20, he's just saying, he is very sweet, dear to me. He is very dear to me. Such a devotee is very dear to me. Right? So his sweetness is going to come there, right? And then, of course, 11, he talks about universal form. Right? Aishwarya. Right? So he's saying that he's explaining all these to you in Bhagavad Gita. So you also know about Kṛṣṇa's Aishwarya and Kṛṣṇa's Madhurya, which is Kṛṣṇa's sweetness. Like that. Om Tato Satu.
So Mataji, Aishwarya Gyan is greatness of Kṛṣṇa, and Madhurya is sweetness, that is the Gyan.
Yeah. Madhurya.
Right.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right. Dandavat
So
pranam.
this
Jai
is
Shri
a
Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Patitana Pavane Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Gopimanate.
Hari
Thank you so much.
Bol.
Oh,
Hare
Simi
Krishna.
Mataji.